fiery horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty hi-yo silver, the Lone Ranger. With his faithful Indian companion Tonto, the daring and resourceful masked rider of the plains led the fight for law and order in the early western United States. Nowhere in the pages of history can one find a greater champion of justice. Return with us now to those thrilling days of yesteryear. From out of the past come the thundering hoofbeats of the great horse Silver. The Lone Ranger rides again.
Come on, Silver. Let's go, big fellow. Hi-yo, Silver. Hi!
There were only a few men in the Last Chance Cafe when Bob Warren entered. They all turned to look at the handsome, well-built youngster, but they turned away when they saw his twisted smile and the reckless light in his eyes. The boy walked up to the bar.
Hello, Joe.
Well, hello, Bob. What'll it be?
Would you really serve me if I ordered a drink?
Well, I wouldn't like to. You're a little young.
Almost 18. But don't worry. I don't want anything to drink. I don't like the taste of it. Sometimes I wish I did. It might help.
How about a nice cool glass of milk?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, coming right up.
Hello, Bob.
Oh, hello, Doc. I didn't see you.
How's everything at the ranch?
Oh, fine. With Mom running it the way Uncle Ben tells her to, I'll be the richest man in the county by the time I'm 21. Next to Uncle Ben, of course. They've started building the dam, you know.
Yes, I know.
Pretty soon, all the small ranches below us in the valley will be paying us for water rights. When they can't pay any more, we'll buy the ranches. We'll own the whole valley. And we won't have a friend in the world. Dad wouldn't have let that dam be built, Doc.
No, I don't think he would.
And I'm too young to stop them. Doc, you were with Dad when he died, weren't you?
Yes.
And he said, ask Lige, didn't he?
Well, as far as I can make out, those were the words. I may have been mistaken.
I'm sure you weren't.
Bob, I realize that it was a shock for you to come home from school and find that your father had been dry gulched.
Let's not talk about that.
And to be told that his killers had escaped. But it was 3 months ago.
Is 3 months too long to remember?
I didn't mean that.
Oh, I know you didn't, Doc. You just want me to get hold of myself, but I don't like people to hate me.
They don't.
They do. And why shouldn't they hate all Warrens? There's some small ranches down there. I'll show you.
Bob, come back here.
Oh, Bob, here's your milk.
Hey, Joe. I saw Nell Maitland go into the store across the street. Go and get her. She can handle it.
What's she up to?
Go and get Nell.
Right.
And I guess that's about all.
Well, Miss Maitland, will you come across to my place for a minute?
To the last chance?
Yeah. Bob Warren's in there. The doc's afraid there'll be trouble.
Oh, of course, Joe. I'll be back for these things.
Yes.
What's happened?
Well, nothing yet. But he was starting to talk with some of the small ranchers when I left.
Oh.
And you know how they feel about the dam his uncle's building.
But Bob doesn't have anything to do with that.
Everybody realizes it. But he insists upon talking about it. And, well, one thing may lead to another.
Yes, I understand.
I just want you to tell me to my face what you think of the war. Oh, don't worry about me going for my gun. I've got the slowest draw in the West. That comes of going to school in the East. Well, go on, tell me, Thad.
Thad has no quarrel with you, Bob.
Well, I have.
Nell, what are you doing in here? This is no place for a lady.
It'll be a few years before I'm a lady. And it'll be longer than that before you're a bad man. Now, you're going to help me load my supplies into the buckboard.
Nell, there's something I've got
There's
to...
nothing you have to say that I care to listen to.
Hey, let go of my ear.
Come along, Bob.
All right. My ear, Nell. Let go.
Nell made Bob load her supplies into the buckboard and then insisted that he tie his mount to the back and drive. The Maitlands owned the nearest ranch to the two big Warren spreads that extended for miles on either side of Crystal Creek at the head of the valley. Nell and Bob had grown up together until he was sent away to school. And now, although the girl was a few months the younger of the two, she laid down the law to him.
It's as simple as ABC, Bob. Your uncle's building the dam, and you don't have anything to do with it.
Mom's putting up half the money, and it's half on our property.
Well, you're against it, and everybody knows it, so forget it.
Oh, I'm glad you're not mad at me now.
As if I could be. How will you promise to show some sense from now on?
The dam isn't the only trouble, Nell.
What else is there, Bob?
Something that might happen, and something I've found out.
You're being mighty mysterious.
I have to be. Oh, get it. I'm going away for a while, Nell.
Where?
I don't know exactly.
You can't just up and leave home like that.
Yes, I can. But I'll be coming back. And when I do, maybe everything will be all right.
It was nearly dark when Bob reached home. He went directly to his bedroom, packed a few clothes in his saddlebag, and then went to the kitchen for some food. Mrs. Warren found him there just as he was about to leave by the back door.
Oh. Where are you going?
Oh. Here, Mom, I was going to leave this note.
Well, what does it mean? Going away for a few days.
Just what it says.
Oh, Bob.
I'm not leaving home or anything like that. I'm going away for a few days, and I'll be back.
It's getting dark, and there's storm clouds in the west.
Oh, a little rain won't hurt me.
It's because of the dam, isn't it?
No, Mom.
I'm only doing what I think is right for you. I don't know anything about ranching, and I have to take your uncle's advice. He says that we must have the dam to protect our water supply during the summer.
Well, that isn't true, Mom. There are 100 springs up in the mountain that feed the creek. And they flow just as sweet and pure and strong in the summer as they do in the spring.
Bob, I'm sure that your uncle wouldn't take advantage of the other ranchers.
And I'm sure he would, and he will. Are you going to marry him?
What?
I heard him ask you. Are you going to marry him?
How can you ask such a question? Your father hasn't been dead 3 months.
Suppose it were a year, Mom.
I don't know, Bob. All I can tell you is that I loved your father, and I love you. I want this ranch to grow and prosper for your sake. Only for your sake. In anything I do...
Please, Mom. Don't marry Uncle Ben for my sake. Goodbye now. If I'm away for more than 2 or 3 days, all right.
Bob!
Goodbye.
The Lone Ranger and Tonto had made their camp that night in a cave high in the hills. A storm was threatening, but it hadn't broken yet, so they cooked their supper outside, close to the trail that followed a dry gorge. Every now and then, lightning flashed across the sky, lighting up the trail.
Kimasabi, somebody ride this way?
Yes, I saw him.
Him ride too fast. Him not see where trail carried away by landslide.
I know. He'll fall into the gorge.
Hear him come.
Stop! You, Silver.
Him not hear you.
Easy, big fella. We'll have to catch him. Come on, Silver.
Get him up, Scout.
It was Bob Warren who was racing along the gorge trail ahead of the Lone Ranger and Tonto. The masked man called to him again.
Stop the trail, washed out.
The boy turned in his saddle. As the lightning flashed again, he saw the Lone Ranger's mask. And instead of stopping, he spurred his horse on.
You've got to catch him before he rounds the bend, Silver. Come on, boy.
The great white stallion closed the gap with every mighty leap. Bob turned again, started to reach for his gun, and then turned back, realizing he must give all his attention to his speeding mount. No horse's speed could match Silver's, though, and in another few seconds he had ranged alongside, and the Lone Ranger had grasped the bridle of Bob's horse and was pulling it to a stop.
Oh, Silver, boy, back. Go now.
All right, mister, you've got me. I warn you, I'm not carrying much money.
I don't want your money. Just ride slowly around the bend.
Here.
Come on, Silver.
Come.
Oh, Silver. Easy now.
Oh, boy.
All right. Now look.
Oh, golly, the trail's almost all gone.
It's passable, but you'd never have made it at the speed you were going.
I don't know what to say, except thanks.
Kimasabi, this boy from Warren Ranch.
Bob Warren,
You know me?
I knew your father. He was a fine man.
I thought so. But you're masked.
I'm not an outlaw, Bob.
You're not Lige Hawkins, are you?
Lige Hawkins?
Oh, no, of course not. You're nothing like he's been described to me. But somehow I've got to find him. I know he rode west, and that's about all.
Kimasabi,
Yes, Toto. What's your interest in Lige Hawkins, Bob?
I think he knows who killed my father. The only words that Dad said after they found him were, "Ask Lige."
Lige Hawkins is a prospector.
That's right. I found a letter from him in Dad's papers. He was asking for a grub stake, and he said that he'd stop at the ranch on the day Dad was killed.
Did he stop there?
No. But he could have met Dad between the ranch and town, though. He could have been riding with him when the shots were fired.
A witness to a murder, and he didn't report it to the sheriff?
He probably kept riding on into the hills just as fast as he could to save his own life.
Kimasabi.
Yes.
Lige tried to tell you something the other night, but him stop. Him afraid, maybe.
What's that? What'd the Indian say?
We know where Lige is, Bob. We saw him less than 2 days ago.
Where? You've got to tell me.
Why not leave this to Tonto and me?
No, it was my father who was killed.
But if Lige is afraid to come back to the valley, I don't think you can persuade him against his will. We'll make you this promise, Bob. If he was witness to a murder, we'll bring him back with us tomorrow night.
You promise?
As a friend of your father's. Now, you'd better go home and wait. Tonto, we'll start at once and cover as much ground as we can before the storm breaks. Back to camp, we'll pack our things. One Silver! Get him up, Scout!
The storm broke in all its fury as Bob reined up in front of his home, and he was drenched to the skin before he could unsaddle his horse and turn him into the corral. He had to fight his way against the wind-driven rain to reach the house. He staggered up the steps under the weight of his saddle and threw open the door.
Bob! Oh, thank goodness.
His Uncle Ben was sitting with his mother.
Well, prodigal has returned. I told you, Beth, there was nothing to worry about. Better change your clothes, my boy.
I'm going straight to bed.
No, Bob. Come back when you're dry. I want you to have a talk with Ben about the dam.
The less I have to say to Ben, the better as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, dear.
Why are you so bitter toward me, Bob?
I'll tell you why. Because you wanted to build a dam across the creek and Dad didn't. You were the one person in this world who would have liked to have seen my father dead.
Stop!
Are you accusing me of killing my own brother?
No, Uncle Ben, I'm not, because it wouldn't do me any good. But remember what Dad said before he died? Ask Lige? Well, suppose we do that. Suppose we ask Lige and see what he can tell us. Good night.
Beth, that boy is dangerous.
The curtain falls on the first act of our Lone Ranger story. Before the next exciting scenes, please permit us to pause for just a few moments. to continue our story. The rain fell steadily, torrentially, for a full 24 hours, but it stopped at nightfall on the second day. The Lone Ranger and Tonto rode back into the valley, and with them was a grizzled old prospector, his thin shoulders hunched with weariness after the long ride through the storm. The men reined up in front of the ranch house where Bob Warren lived with his mother.
Oh, Silver. Big fella. I want you to find out if Bob's home, Lige. Mrs. Warren may answer the door, and she might be frightened by my mask.
What if Ben Warren opens the door?
I'll be standing beside you in the shadows. My guns will be ready.
All right, then. I'm ashamed to be such a coward, masked man, but I'm not up to gunplay anymore.
I promised that you'd be protected, Lige, and you will be.
I believe you. Somehow I'm not scared when you're around.
Yes?
Is Bob at home, ma'am?
No. Why do you want him?
Well, I've got some business with him, ma'am.
Well, he said he was going over to the Maitlands. And before that, an Indian came here with a message. He wouldn't explain it to me. Do you know anything about it?
No, ma'am, I don't. I'll see if I can find him at the Maitlands.
Yes. And if you do, will you tell him to come home soon?
I will, ma'am.
Thank you.
The Maitlands. Do you know where that is, masked man?
Yes, it's the next ranch. Come on.
15 minutes later, Lige was knocking on the door of the Maitland Ranch, and once again the Lone Ranger was standing in the shadows at his side.
Hello.
Howdy, miss. Is Bob Warren here?
Why, no. He's been here and gone.
Could you tell me where?
I don't know whether I should or not. Who are you?
The name is Lige Hawkins, miss.
But he went to meet you. At least he thought he was going to meet you.
I don't understand.
He told me that a masked man and an Indian were bringing you back here to the valley.
That's right, they did.
But an Indian brought Bob a message
Just
that
a moment, Miss Maitland.
Well,
Please don't be alarmed.
I'm not. I'm just a little startled. Are you the masked man he met last night?
Yes, I am. But what happened tonight?
An Indian came to the Warren Ranch with a message that if Bob wanted some information about the men who killed his father, he was to ride up the Gorge Trail tonight as far as Eagle Rock. He thought he was supposed to meet you there. Why didn't you wait for him?
That message didn't come from us.
It didn't? But who could...
We can guess that too easily. How long ago did he leave here?
It's been nearly half an hour.
Thanks, miss. Better ride into town and report to the sheriff, Lige. Steady, big fella.
I'd sooner stay with you, mister.
All right, but you'll have to ride as you've never ridden before. Even now, we may be too late. Come on, Silver! Come on.
Into the hills, the Lone Ranger, Tonto, and Lige rode at breakneck speed, and at last they reached the narrow, twisting trail that followed the gorge. Suddenly, two riders rounded a bend on the trail ahead. When they saw the Lone Ranger by the light of the crescent moon, they reined up and started back. But Silver was thundering closer, and the masked man's gun was drawn.
Stand where you are! You're covered! All right, don't shoot!
The hombre's wearing a mask.
Take off your gun belts and drop them to the ground.
Sure. We're just a couple of cowpokes, mister. We don't want any trouble.
Hurry up.
Sure.
Now I want straight answers. Where do you come from, and what are you doing here?
We come from one of the ranches in the valley. Just been over to Ridgetown to buy some horses.
Get their guns, Tonto.
Hey, mister. This is Jake and Gad.
Lige Hawkins.
They were with Ben that day. They worked for him.
All right, you two. Where's Bob Warren?
Young Bob Warren? How should we know? We'll show you where he lives if you want us to do that.
Get off your horses.
Huh?
I said get off your horses and make it fast.
Right.
All right, steady, big fella. Here are my guns, Tonto.
Oh, you take them. What's the idea?
I'm going to take on the two of you with my fists. You're going to have to keep fighting until you tell where Bob Warren is.
You'll take on the two of us at the same time?
Yes. Where's Bob?
Come on, Jake. He's asking.
Hold it!
Both of the men closed on the Lone Ranger, and for a moment they forced him back to the edge of the gorge. But then the masked man's right caught Jake full on the chin, and a second later, Gap felt the full force of his whip. They knew then the Lone Ranger was too much for them, but they continued to fight defensively. The Lone Ranger gave them no quarter. Blow after blow crashed home to its mark. Jake sagged limply and slipped to the ground. Gap turned to run, but the Lone Ranger grabbed him by the shoulder and whirled him around.
Come here, you!
Don't hit me again.
Talk. Where's Bob?
He's down the gorge.
You've killed him?
No, I don't know. He was waiting at the point, and when he saw me and Jake, he went for his gun. I cracked him over the head with a barrel of mine, and he fell off his horse.
Rolled right over the edge and down into the gorge.
You left him lying there?
Yes, Kimasabi. Flash flood come through gorge soon.
I know.
If possible, you ride down into gorge where landslide carry trail away.
You're right, Tonto. Keep these two covered until I get back. Easy, steady, big fella. One, two, there.
At the point where the landslide had partially choked the gorge, the Lone Ranger was able to guide Silver down the steep slope.
Over, boy. Easy.
The stream that was running through the gorge now was only a few inches deep and a few feet wide. There was room to ride between it and the walls of the gorge.
Good now. Come on. All right, Silver.
Once again, the Lone Ranger gave Silver his head, and the great horse sprang forward. On he raced, around one bend, around another. And at last the masked man could see the still figure of a boy lying at the side of the swift-flowing stream.
There he is, Silver. Come on, boy.
But now a strange and ominous sound could be heard plainly. The distant roar of the floodwaters that would soon be filling the gorge.
Oh, what?
The Lone Ranger pulled up, dismounted,
Easy.
and knelt beside the boy. He put his head to his chest, listened for a heartbeat. It was there, faint but unmistakable. He lifted the boy to his saddle and mounted.
All right, easy, Silver. There. Steady now. One, Silver.
As he started back, the masked man could see a solid wall of water racing toward him.
Can't climb the bank here, Silver. Got to make it back to the landslide. Faster, boy.
The wall of water was over 10 feet high. Neither man nor horse could survive the impact if it hit them. The only chance was to reach the top of the gorge, and Silver sensed that it was death that was roaring at his heels. Faster and faster he ran, until he felt the steadying hand of his master on the reins. Here was the place where they had descended into the gorge. Here was the place where they must climb to safety.
Look, boy. Hurry. There isn't much time left. Come on.
5 feet, 10 feet, Silver fought his way up the treacherous slope. But now the flood was upon them. At the last second, Silver found solid ground and scrambled out of reach of the angry waters that fought their way through the gorge.
Oh, Silver. All right now, boys. We made it. Come on, Silver.
The trail at the top of the gorge was reached, and a few minutes later, the Lone Ranger reined up beside Tonto.
Oh, Silver. Oh.
Get to him in time, Kimasabi.
Time to save him from the flood.
He's alive, isn't he?
Yes. I don't know how badly he's been hurt. We'll take him home, and you can stay with him, Tonto. And Lige and I will take these two in to the sheriff. We'll send the doctor back before we go after Ben Warren. All right, Gad, Jake, into your saddles.
All right, steady.
Go on right ahead of us. Come on, Silver.
At midnight, when neither Jake nor Gat had returned, Ben Warren became worried.
Maybe the boy didn't rise to the bait. They're still waiting up there in the hills. I think I'll take a ride across the creek and find out.
Ben caught and saddled his mount, and 15 minutes later, he was reining up in front of the ranch house.
Oh, there. Oh, boy. Oh, steady. Yeah, plenty of lights. Something going on. So what's the matter?
I thought you were the doctor.
Something happened?
There's been an accident. Bob fell and hurt himself.
Oh, too bad. Why are you looking at me that way?
I don't know. I'm just so upset.
At finding me instead of the doctor?
Yes.
One would think I had horns on my head and was breathing fire from my mouth.
I'm sorry.
You're a poor liar.
No, don't you.
Answer me quietly. Who brought Bob home?
An Indian. He's in there.
Neil, why don't you bring the doctor in?
Go on, walk before me into the living room.
Doctor, you must come in. It's big.
Stand aside, Beth. Up with your hands, Indian. I'll take your gun. Now then, what makes me such an unwelcome visitor, Beth?
You don't have to be told. You killed my husband and you've tried to kill my boy.
You have any proof of that?
Proof? I'll tell you what proof I have.
Mom, don't.
Bob, you've come too.
Don't say anything. Not until the masked man gets...
Better you not talk, Bob.
The masked man's been here, Bob. He brought Lige Hawkins back with him. And he found you after Gat and Jake tried to murder you.
Mom, Ben will
Ben
try to...
can't do anything now. I'm sorry, son. I should never have listened to him. And in the future, it's
I'm
going
not
to...
sure there'll be any future, Beth. For you or Bob or anyone else who's here but me. You say that I can't do anything now.
You can.
Well, one thing I can surely do, and that's make my escape. It might be wise before I go to eliminate all of you.
Ben, dog.
And I'll start with you sniveling little idiot.
No, I won't let
Stay
you.
there, Beth. One bullet will do for both of you, like...
No, you don't!
As Ben leveled his gun, the front door burst open, and the Lone Ranger ran into the living room just in time to grab Ben's arm. The bullet from his gun buried itself in the ceiling. In the next instant, the masked man had wrenched the gun from his hand, and the sheriff and his men were pouring into the house.
Here's your prisoner, Sheriff.
Thanks, mister. I'll get some handcuffs on him.
Oh, how's the boy, Toto?
He'll be all right now.
Good. Then let's go.
There, Ben. You're under arrest for murder. You'll get a fair trial, but with Lige Hawkins and your own men testifying against you, verdict's a sure thing.
You got here just in time, Sheriff. How did you know?
Easy. Ben wasn't at home, and the masked fella picked up his trail on the soft ground. Led us straight here.
Where is he, Sheriff? Where's the masked man going?
Well, son, he's on his way, I guess.
I wanted to thank him. To tell him how...
You can do that by playing square with all the small ranches in the valley, ma'am.
We mean to, Sheriff.
Well, then that's all the thanks the masked man would want. You see, ma'am, he's the Lone Ranger.
This is a product of the Lone Ranger Incorporated, created and produced by George W. Trendle, directed by Charles D. Livingston, and edited by Fran Stryker. The part of the Lone Ranger is played by Brace Beamer.
You've been listening to the OTR Gold Network. Find more classic radio at otrgold.com.